If we want to have a discussion about what is inflammatory, the inflammatory rhetoric isn't the response coming from the tax-paying citizens. The inflammatory rhetoric is the accusations of terrorism and the accusations of fascism and the accusations of Nazism. That's not just coming from Democrat pundits on little-watched MSNBC or CNN. It's coming from people who are in elected positions, people who are supposed to be stewards, good, accountable stewards of the power invested in them by the vote or by consent of the people. That's inflammatory. Criticism is not inflammatory rhetoric. Calling people like the FISA judges and the FBI agents that edited emails, literally, I mean, this is not speculation. This is not just like punditry crap to fill up broadcast airtime. These are facts. A guy was convicted for this. There's an inspector general report out about this. Bill Barr, who's not even friends with Donald Trump, has confirmed this and discussed it ad nauseum. What they did was not just inflammatory rhetoric towards the American people and citizens. It was inflammatory action against the American people and citizenry. They want you to feel like you can't respond because this is emotional abuse. We are in an abusive relationship with our government. It is absolutely not inflammatory. People like these, broads on The View, they would have been out there throwing themselves in front of the redcoats at Lexington and Concord. Inflammatory rhetoric. They would have said that John Adams engaged in inflammatory rhetoric. They would have said that Sam Adams engaged in inflammatory rhetoric. That Paul Revere, the committees of correspondence. It doesn't matter. At any point in American history, you can always find those people who are happy to make easy the tyrants that would subjugate us because it gives them a little bit of power and influence. That's not a trade, that's prostitution, just for the record. Now, this whole thing, I like to keep a cool, calm head. But you are allowed your angry, righteous indignation. You're not only allowed it, it's not just your right, it's your obligation. As the citizenry, as the American people, we not only have the right, but we have the responsibility of criticizing those people in these unaccountable positions, this bureaucratic class who have carried out these offenses against the American people. I've seen a lot of discussion about whether or not the Rubicon has been crossed. Have you seen that? Has the Rubicon been crossed? Has it been, are we past the point of no return? That was a phrase from Caesar's time. It had to do with this area, this river that it was like in the Roman era. It was the boundary between two provinces. Oh, if you cross this area, if you send troops into this area, you're breaking the law and you are unable at that point to walk away from conflict. Have we crossed the Rubicon? I keep hearing this over and over again. I think the United States is very unique by way of our being a republic. The founders were so unbelievably smart in making everything so decentralized. That's why I'm hostile to the idea of consolidating everything in D.C. Because if it's all decentralized in all these 50 states, if you're going to be a tyrant, then by God, you got to work really, really hard. And you've got to not only be a tyrant in Washington, D.C., but you have to expand that tyranny to every single state and every single district and every single county. It was very smart to have it so decentralized. If every single country or every single state in the country thought like California or behaved like New York, I might say that we have. But I don't think we have yet. Now, that's not to say that we won't ever. And it's not to say that we won't even in a generation. Freedom's only one generation away. Losing it's one generation away. You got to vote. I also think, too, that there's this mischievous Machiavellian intent to get people to think, especially on the right, that their vote doesn't matter like the Democrats did. I think Democrats did this in Georgia. You had that one Democrat who decided to become a Republican very conveniently, and then he just disappeared into the ether. No one ever heard from him again. You know that guy? He had like that super white hair. He looked like a character in Ozark. He was out there telling everybody not to vote. Not to vote. Yeah. And look out. Look what happened in the special election. People didn't come out to vote. They were convinced that they were being robbed. I mean, if Democrats can't rob you, the next best thing is to convince you that you are being robbed. And then by way of robbing yourself, you don't vote and you don't advance your agenda. So that means everybody better be. We're not past the Rubicon. We're not past the Rubicon until people of good sense with a thirst for freedom refuse to go canvass, until they refuse to go and put in as much work in the street as they do on Twitter and Facebook. We're not past the Rubicon then. We're not past the Rubicon until the people who can save the Republic give up on the Republic.